that I've used on replay for a lot of this year. It's a song that came across my feed, and it's one of those things where I heard it and the Spirit spoke and said, that's the song you're going to use for graduation Sunday. Now I'll paint the rest of it out as the year goes on, but that's the song you're going to use. So it was hard to really think of, like, how am I going to use this? And over the last 6 months or so, the Lord has really unraveled a lot about me to paint the story that I'm going to share with you guys today. And even my sermon illustration that I was going to use unraveled before me, because you may only see 2 strings back here that I was going to use. Friday, when I set all of this up, I had like 7. And I was going to wear a jacket, but you always forget how hot it actually gets on stage here. So in the hopes that I don't melt up here, I'm not going to wear the jacket that I've planned. So consider it just part of the unraveling process. So, but how many of you have felt unraveled over the past, I don't know, year or so for some reason? Go ahead and raise your hands if you'd like. If those online, if you want to put in the chat, I've felt unraveled, go for it. I think it's safe to say that this pandemic that we've been so lucky to be a part of caused a lot of disruption for us, didn't it? Between schools closing and hybrid learning, businesses closing, learning how to do new things, churches having to redo ministries, staying home, working from home, and that's just like the tiniest bit off the top. Our lives were becoming unraveled before our very eyes, and we had no say in the matter. We had no control over how this unraveling was going on. But today's focus is this. While the world became unraveled, God stitched me back together. Today I'm going to discuss my unraveling and talk about my testimony over the past few months as God's handiwork, to which God unveiled a lot of issues about me that I didn't even know were there because I'm perfect. If you believe that, I have some other things to sell you later on after service. Because of his grace and mercy, though, he's guiding me through this whole restitching process to become the fearfully and wonderfully made product that Psalm 139:14 says I am. Yet I still struggle with that. I can look in the mirror and think, how can I believe that this mess of a human can be fearfully and wonderfully made? But thanks again to God's grace and mercy, with help from therapy, which I have been in therapy since April 2020, and thank God for that. This belief is starting to become more of a reality. Today we're going to discuss and dissect a lot of Psalm 139 today, and discuss the different parts of this prayer and how my unraveling connected to this Davidic psalm in many ways that are just unfathomable to my human brain. So I feel like Psalm 139 is a common psalm. It's one we've heard of. When you think psalm, you think Psalm 139, probably aside from Psalm 23. But the Message translation paints this psalm in a beautiful way. And that's what I pray will connect with you guys today. Psalm 139 is this intensely personal prayer that expresses the awe that God knows us, knows the author in every single way, down to the smallest detail. God knows who we are. And as different areas of my life are becoming unraveled, it is clear to know that God knows every detail about me, even the areas that I choose to overlook. So we're going to dive into the first part of the psalm reading today. Hope's going to read verses 1 through 6.
God, investigate my life. Get all the facts firsthand. I'm an open book to you. Even from a distance, you know what I'm thinking. You know when I leave and when I get back. I'm never out of your sight. You know everything I'm going to say before I start the first sentence. I look behind me and you're there. Then up ahead you're there, too. Your reassuring presence coming and going. This is too much, too wonderful. I can't take it all in.
So I mentioned earlier that I've been in therapy. And through therapy, especially since about April of this year, I have had some really awesome breakthroughs. And again, I don't regret it. And just as a disclaimer, as Mental Health Awareness Month ended in May, I do want to remind our graduates, everybody watching at home in here, that if you need help, please reach out to somebody, whether it's a school counselor, a doctor, a therapist, psychologist, pastor, or other spiritual care advisor. Please reach out, because there are always people willing to help you go through or help you through whatever it is you're battling. So just disclaimer. So, but the biggest breakthrough I had in therapy really scared the daylight out of me, which, as all good breakthroughs should, because it shook me down to my core. It messed with my identity, which I've been building years to protect. For those of you that don't know, and not many people do, I was a victim of bullying in high school. Not physical, thankfully, but a lot of verbal. And I thought how I handled it back then was a very healthy way. But boy, my therapist is really good at proving me wrong. I used to handle it by just accepting whatever label came at me. You're stupid. Yeah, okay, I am. You're dumb. Yeah, I am. You're gay. I mean, this is back 2010 when that was still not okay to say, but more common to say. All that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, yeah, because I thought that if I just accept it, well, they can't make fun of me for it, because it's there and it doesn't get a reaction out of me anymore. So fine, I'll leave you alone. And it worked as I thought, but little did I know how big of an effect it had on me today. Because I had always accepted, and this is 2010, so 10 years at least, of accepting what others thought of me. It led me to believe that what others said I am is who I am. It led me to believe that I am what others think of me, which led me to a lot of perfectionism, people-pleasing, and more. And I was terrified of this revelation. I mean, so much so when I was sitting down, because I do it online, I was just panic attack, rocking back and forth like, okay, wait, time out, no. But something that I thought that had been benefiting me for 10 years is now turned on its head. I started to question a lot. Who am I? What does this mean? Is my life a lie? Is who I am a lie? These extremisms panicked me to no end. They still do to a point this day. But then I calmed down and developed a plan and created this new foundation for me. One that I thought I was doing well in. And it's creating a foundation that is God-led, God-first, and God-breathed. I invited God, like the psalmist, to investigate every part of my life. All the stuff that I show and all the stuff that I keep behind closed doors that nobody wants to see. And to get into the deeper roots of who I am and strip away, take everything away that is not His. And boy, it's been a journey. And it's only 2 months in. But boy, has it's been a journey. And it always will be. Learning life with God is a lifelong journey. As the psalmist states, no matter where we go, God's presence is there. It's overwhelming, the amount of tender care, grace, and mercy that God provides to each and every one of us. So I hope that you invite God into your lives today, and that you don't worry about what others think. To keep the other voices out of your head, to keep those other titles out of your head. The only relationship that should truly matter to you as an adult is the one up there and here. As long as you and God are on the right page, the world can't get in your way. Strive to be great for God. Let's move on to the next part of this psalm, verses 7 through 12.
Your spirit, to be out of your sight. If I climb the sky, you're there. If I go underground, you're there. If I flew on morning's wing to the far western horizon, you'd find me in a minute. You're already there waiting. Then I said to myself, Oh, he even sees me in the dark. At night, I'm immersed in a light. It's a fact. Darkness isn't dark to you. Night and day, darkness and light, they're all the same to you.
So if you know me, you know that I kind of, maybe, sort of, am controlling. And by control, I heard that what? By controlling, I mean I need to be in charge of every little detail over every little thing. I like control. I like to feel in control. I don't think there's a person I've met that doesn't like to feel in control. Yet I would not say I like control. I don't want to be in control anymore. I want someone else to go through all this and just make the decisions for me. I'm sure some of you have had a type of that conversation with yourself. I even wrote a 7-part series for my own blog called Releasing What I'm Not in Control Of. The series was written at the heart of the pandemic, probably May of last year, when I started to really accept this new normal that we were living of staying indoors, working from home, and all the other new changes that came. And I realized I had no control over the pandemic. Like none. You would think it would be obvious, but boy, was that mind-blowing to me. I tell you one thing, though, being a control freak in a control-less environment, very exhausting. It's exhausting work to be a control freak in a control-less environment. All the things that you want to be in charge of, you can't. It's just not possible. And it sucks. You get stuck doing your own thing for so long that you can now not tell what's right, what's wrong, what's up, and what's down. And it took a long, long time before I realized I should probably invite God into this. I should probably invite God into these new changes to be like, okay, God, how am I supposed to do this? Because I don't know anymore. And surprisingly enough, once I started doing that, it got easier. Like weirdly easier. I started worrying less about the stuff I was doing for the church. I started worrying less about the future, worrying less about myself. I started focusing deeper on my own health and my own spiritual attitude. It's almost as if I realized that I really can't do life without God. And once that realization has set in, life did get a little easier to handle. Yes, there's still up and downs. I'm not saying being a Christian is perfect. It's actually far from it. And yes, I'm not perfect considering what my brain wants me to believe, but no, I'm not. And yes, I still struggle with it today. There's times when life gets easier to manage, and because it's easier, then it's like, oh, I can handle it. God, go away. And strange enough, once I pushed God away, things got tough again. The control freak in me thought I could fix it, even though I knew I couldn't. This mindset turned it, for me, into an unhealthy habit of just bringing God in when life was rough, when life was down. You know, there's nowhere else to go but God, so therefore I'm going to go to God until things get better, and then just stick him in my back pocket until I need him again. However, I've since learned to be more intentional into inviting God into all parts, both the good and the bad, because as Paul states, or no, I think Paul states, I don't know, I guess I shouldn't quote that, but with God all things are possible. And let that be your takeaway for this part of the sermon. I don't want you to think that you can do life without God, because I've learned it's hard to do it on my own. But God will grant you his guidance and a very excellent support crew. Thank you, church, to get you through life. Now let's close this sermon with another section of Psalm 139, verses 17 to 22.
Your thoughts, how rare, how beautiful. God, I'll never comprehend them. I couldn't even begin to count them, any more than I could count the sand of the sea. Oh, let me rise in the morning and live always with you. And please, God, do away with wickedness for good. And you murderers, out of here. All the men and women who belittle you, God, infatuated with cheap God imitations. See how I hate those who hate you, God. See how I loathe all this godless arrogance. I hate it with pure, unadulterated hatred. Your enemies are my enemies.
Now I know that part of the psalm is a little aggressive. At least it was to me when I read it. But it connected with me on one topic in particular, and it's called analysis paralysis, something my therapist just taught me that I deal with a lot. So how many of you guys have heard that term before? You can raise your hand, you can put it in the chat. Analysis paralysis. It refers to a situation in which an individual or group cannot move forward with a decision, resulting in overanalyzing data or overthinking a problem. A lot of times you hear this in the finance world with stockholders not knowing whether to buy or sell or to make a move on a trade. So typically where you hear it. But I'm really good, and I know a lot of people will back me up, and if you do, I'm coming after you afterwards. I am really good at overanalyzing and overthinking, to the point where it has held me back from doing a lot of various things. And what analysis paralysis has done to me is cause a lot of physical and mental fatigue. I spent a lot of days overthinking, overanalyzing. By the end of the day, I'm done. I'm exhausted. I don't want to do anything else. So I spend the rest of the day doing the tasks that require no brain power because it's all I feel like I can do. And I used to just think, I don't do much because I'm not motivated to. No, it's because I'm actually just tired. So if anybody wonders how a 25-year-old who's in decent-ish health can be tired, now you have my excuse. It was more profound than that. And I believe it was a case of not aligning my thoughts with God's thoughts. The psalmist opens this part of Scripture saying that he could never comprehend God's thoughts, nor could he count them. And it's hard hearing God. It's hard to hear God. It's hard to hear what thoughts come from God and what thoughts come from the world. For me, it's been due to the potential absurdity that I can believe my thoughts to be. Not to say that God's thoughts are absurd, but because I just can't comprehend the difference. And because I can't comprehend them, it leads me to think of the concept of, is this thought from God or is it from the world? And I don't remember where I heard this from, so forgive me. But I recently learned in an old, I think it was an old lesson, so it was an old scripture I did. If it's peaceful and fulfilling, it's from God. If it's evil and wrong, it's not. Which is acceptable to believe, but for me, on the surface. But what about those thoughts that feel peaceful but are from the world? Or those thoughts that feel wrong but it's from God pushing you outside of your comfort zone? There's that overanalyzing and overthinking again. And I'll tell you one thing, this hamster wheel that it runs on needs to disassemble. So, for me, my therapist recommended something that I need to incorporate in my life. And I hear the words of our former youth, Morgan, every time. She's told me this now, to not think and just do. And it's funny that it cycles back 4 years later, that mantra comes back around again. It's a mantra that when you're up against something that causes you to feel fear or this lack of confidence that you are just to do the thing. I mean, still give it thought. Obviously, if you're going to do something crazy or that could cause harm to you or others, please still give it thought, please. But you don't feel like writing because of X, Y, Z, then write. You don't feel like you're going to read because of X, Y, and Z, just read. It's that mentality that will help you to do that. And I also believe it helps listen to God. Those nudges that the Holy Spirit gives us something to do, and we question, is this God? Is this not? Guys, we're not doing that anymore. We're just doing. God will be pleased with the obedience or help learn that it wasn't Him. But the only way we can normally find out is just by doing. So, as I've recently picked up in my lesson videos, I close with what have we learned today. We need to unravel the thought that it matters more what others think than let me start that sentence again. We need to unravel the thought that it matters more what others think about us than God. And we need to restitch that thought as, I just want to be great for you, God. No one else. We need to unravel the thought that we can go through life leaving God in the dust. And restitch that as, God, I want you involved in every decision and in every action I make and in every word I speak. We need to unravel the thought that we need to think things to death. and restitch this thought as God grant me the courage and confidence to do what you need me to do. If what I'm about to go through is part of your plan, help me through it. If not, take it away. And I challenge you guys this week by taking verses 23 and 24 of this psalm, and these words may be familiar to you, but recite this passage, pray about it, and let the Lord do his work. Hope's going to read them for us.
Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting.
The words you heard on the screen were the Message translation, just to let you know. But let the Lord search your thoughts, as scary as it is, because I know my thoughts can't be any better. Let the Lord search. Let the Lord see. Let the Lord do his work. And as Morgan would tell me, don't think, just do. And as we reflect on that, join me in our next hymn, a reflection hymn. And in this period of reflecting, I think it's perfect that we sing, Here I Am, Lord. It's 593 in your hymnal. We're going to sing verses 1 and 3. We ask you to wear your mask if you're encouraged to do so. And the words are on the screen. Enjoy.